Hello and welcome to my channel. I've been digging through my old minis and found this old Terminator model which I painted when I was about 12, and yes, the paint job is terrible. But I'm going to have a go at fixing that. But first I need to remove all the old paint. So I'm going to try this stuff which works very well on modern paints, but the paints on this model are 40 years old and likely going to be very stubborn. As you can see, very little is coming off. So it looks like I'm going to have to cycle through all my paint removal products, and hopefully we can get this guy back down to bare metal. So after a lot of scrubbing, I ended up with something which looks like this. It's not perfect, but it's about as good as I can get it before doing any damage to it. Next I'm going to attach it to the base, and I'm going to do this by using some green stuff. So basically I stuffed it into the hole and then smoothed it over, or at least made it look like earth texture. Once he's primed, I have a blank canvas to work with. I've decided that this time round this guy is going to be an ultramarine, so I cover him in blue paint. Then I apply a lighter shade of blue as a dry brush, and this brings out all the highlights. The secondary colour on this guy is white, so that will cover his face and all of his emblems. You'll have to bear with me when it comes to Warhammer lore, as it's been nearly 40 years since I last played the game. Anyway, since I don't have any decals, I have to paint on his insignia on his shoulder, and I try to make it as neat as possible. Using black, I painted all the joints. These are between the legs, the torso and the hips, and are most noticeable on the back. And while I'm at it, I also painted the weapon the same colour. Using the thinnest brush I had, I painted the eyes red, and I hate painting eyes at this scale, but thankfully these are eye lenses and eyeballs, so they're a little bit easier. Next, I added some gunmetal on the mouthpiece, as well as on the cables and wires and the gun. Plus I also dry brushed it on some of the black areas, just to add a little bit of punch. And once the basic paint job was done, I gave it an all over black wash, before dabbing off the excess with a tissue to remove it from the highlighted areas. Now I like my miniatures to be a little bit grimy anyway, but I still need to go with this guy with a little bit more white and blue to dial it back a little bit, and that way I have a clear distinction between shadows, mid-tones and highlights. At the last minute I decided to paint this skull on his belt in white. Now as I've said before, I'm not up to date on 40k lore, plus I'm not planning on using this miniature in any battles or campaigns, and my goal was solely to improve upon a really bad paint job. So that being said, I seal in the paint with the matte sealer, and now I can concentrate on the base, starting off with painting black around the edge. With sci-fi pretty much anything goes, so I'm going to use this ground texture by Vallejo to create a little bit of a barren landscape, and this is just brushed on with an old brush and left to dry. And because I'm wanting the ground to look like it's been scorched, I chose to paint it in black, and I just used the ink from this panel liner to soak through and do the job for me. And this guy is finally finished. And I know the standards are quite high in the 40k universe when it comes to painting, and I by no means fall into that category. I just wanted to turn a really bad paint job into an acceptable one, and that's the least I could do for such a vintage model of this calibre. I did actually paint up his brother a couple of years ago when I first got back into this hobby. I'll leave the video somewhere for you to have a look at, and hopefully my skills have improved a little bit since then. Thank you for watching. Don't forget, if I can do it, so can you.